somebody that can help kind of provide you some structure,
Yep.
like a coach, right? Like
Sure.
write up the
Yeah.
play. Say, hey,
Yep.
we're gonna run this play,
Yep.
and this play is gonna work if you do, what I say.
Yeah.
You still got to do the play because you're the
Yeah.
player, but we're gonna write it up. I love that. That's a great analogy because I think we've been using this word mentorship, but it's morphed into like a coach,
Yeah.
and I like that.
Yeah.
Obviously, I come from like a sports background as well. Like my
Sure.
dad was my coach for a while growing up as a
Okay.
kid, and um, he would always he always knew I could take it, so he would kind of make. Sometimes I'd be like the person that would be the example,
Right.
uh, and I think he did that just to show, hey, like, my son's not gonna be given preferential treatment over all the other kids.
Hmm.
But I think that taught me something that,
Yep.
if you get that feedback and sometimes you're not gonna like it, sometimes you might kind of look inwardly on yourself and say, man, I'm not doing the best or I screwed up. But if you have someone there that's your coach and that's like, hey, I'm doing this to help you.
Yep.
I'm doing this because I see the potential in you. Uh, I think that's like so necessary. And yeah, go ahead.
And you hit the nail on the head there because I think to have a good coachee or mentoree relationship, the best types are when the responsibility and the initiative doesn't lie with the coach or the mentor. It
Right.
lies on the person saying, I want you to help me. I want you, if you see something, call it out. And that's where I think some people go to a coach and go, "Oh, my coach wasn't very good. He didn't ask me the right questions, or
Right.
or they didn't, And it's like, no, dude, the initiative's on you. And if you're setting up all sorts of boundaries where you're not willing to have them say things to you, you know, it's on you, to be teachable, to be learnable, so learnable. There you go. So here's a good example. And as a coach, I often will, I can go as far, or a mentor, I can go as far as somebody's teachability. So it's just a silly example that happens time and time again. So a guy's got a smartphone, he's got his iPhone, and he puts on an app, he acts out with it, he takes the app off, and then he's good for a while. And then, so when we're talking, a guy says, "Oh, I had a red week, things didn't go well." And as a good coach, I'll say, "Well, tell me what happened."
Right.
And sometimes guys don't really want to say what happened, but I will drill in and say, "Well, tell me what happened. Tell me what went on. Tell me what happened. What were you looking at? What was, and usually right. So they got to push past their embarrassment or their, reticence on that. But sometimes I'll get guys that will put an app on, act out with it, take the app off. Put the app on, take the app off. No, put the
Mhm.
app on, act out, take the app off. And at some point, I'll say to them, "How's it?" It's kind of like, "Well, how's that working? Do you notice a pattern here? Do you notice that?" And the guys that are super teachable, they might after three or four times say, "Okay, damn it, that's it. I'm this pattern." And I'll say, "Okay, well, here's something you could do different."
Right.
As opposed to trying to convince the guy after 12 or 15 times, maybe this isn't working for him. "Oh, no, no, I need to be able to have access to unfiltered Facebook because I've got to, okay, well, let me know how that works for you." You see the diff you see the difference between
Right.
those two, where one guy wants to get the maximum results with the minimum sacrifice or changes.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
it,
it's
it
it's kind of almost like a quarterback and they've thrown like three or four interceptions
yeah,
and they're just bombing the pass down the field,
yes,
hoping for that Hail Mary.
yeah,
And then you're kind of like, hey, like, have you thought about maybe like running the ball?
checking it off to your running back, or maybe some of these little, try West Coast offense.
Yeah, maybe try like, something a little bit like less risky.
Yes,
Uh yeah, no, I love that. That's great because I think that helps, I think, for the audience too. It's not just about like finding a mentor, but it's also about like you yourself when you
yeah,
have that relationship, how can you like maximize
yeah,
like how can I maximize my relationship with you when we're talking together, when we have this valuable time because I'm in your program. So,
Hmm.
I'm
Yeah.
I'm looking to get something out of it, right?
Yeah.
But a big part of that is like I'm still the one that's the quarterback. Like I'm still the one
That's
that's got
right.
the ball in my hands.
Yep.
And you're the coach. You're on the sideline. You've got the plays,
You're right.
but I've got to be able to talk to you, communicate with you. Like we've all seen probably, I'm trying to find a good example of maybe a quarterback that's not really that coachable, but there's always those moments like on
Yeah.
camera, right, where the
Yeah.
quarterback and the coach are kind of arguing and
Yep.
yelling. I think that happened with Russell Wilson one time at the Broncos. I'm trying to remember the game it was, but it
Let's
was
ride.
like,
Let's ride. Let's ride.
yeah, him
No,
and
let
Sean Payton did not like. There was a moment there. Maybe that's why he's not here anymore.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
there was a moment like where you could just tell like Sean Payton was pissed,
Yeah,
and then
exactly.
Russell was kind of like, it was like a complete like disconnect
Yeah.
because Payton probably was like, hey, like we've got this play,
Yeah.
and then maybe like let's say I'm like Russell Wilson, I might say, okay, Vern, like that sounds great, but
You just
I think I'm
checked
gonna
out of it. Yeah, yeah.
I think I'm gonna try something different that I think's
Yeah.
gonna work. And
Yeah.
then again, like, it's an interception or, we turn the ball over or something and you're like, hey, like, I gave you the play, man. Like
The only difference in that is you and me don't get paid 30, 40, 50 million a year.
that is true. That is true. But I love
Well,
that. Yeah,
let,
that's a good segue. Yeah.
let me and let's put it this way. Let's just kind of lower the mentoring threshold for a second
Yeah.
to find somebody that is a Matt Dobschutz or Michael Leahy or somebody that okay, that's what I want in a coach. You know what? Let's just use a different example. Let's just use a 12-step program.
Yeah.
If anyone's been to 12-step meetings, you're always told you need to do three things. Number one, come to meetings.
Right.
Number two, work the steps. And
Right.
number three, get a sponsor.
Right.
And if you're not doing those three things, you're not doing the 12 steps. Now, why I say that is 12 steps essentially is saying, what does it mean to get a sponsor? They just say, look around in the meeting, listen to the way people talk, and ask yourself, who is it that has more of a track record that would be willing, that I could learn from to take the next step or two?
Right.
You see that's lowering the threshold, and a sponsor is just somebody who's ahead of you.
Yeah.
It can be in a variety of settings, but the bottom line is you need to have somebody ahead of you.
Yeah. Great point. That's like a huge point. If there's any takeaways from this podcast, is like it's necessary because
Absolutely.
we've talked about it a bit. Like I did an interview with my little brother.
Hmm.
That's more about having that brotherhood, like that person, more
Sure.
like that peer, somebody
Yep.
that's like ready to go on the journey with you.
Yep.
That's more or less kind of in the same, same area of sobriety, all that stuff.
Yeah. And you can check in. You're feeling a
Right.
little bit wobbly today, and you saw this chick at the bank machine, and you're just going, "Oh man, I can't get her." Oh, you just rifle off a note to your buddy as
Yeah,
an example.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then like taking that aspect of it, but then also tying in, okay, you got your accountability partner, you got your buddy.
Yep.
Now you got to have a mentor. Like you got to have a coach. You got to have someone that's ahead of you
That's right.
that is going to give you a different perspective on things,
Right.
unlock the potential in you that you might not
Hmm.
even see in yourself.
Sure.
You might have this completely different perspective in your head of how your recovery is going to go, and then you get a coach, a mentor like you, and you can help unlock. Like I said, you helped inspire me to do this podcast.
Yeah.
And if I didn't have you as a coach or a mentor or didn't start Matt Dobschute's, Rev
Yep.
group,
Yep.
where would I be in my recovery journey? It'd probably look a lot different. I'd probably be still, doing like you were saying, kind of like the binge and purge cycle, because I
Hmm.
completely, agree with that and relate to it to where you do really well for a bit, you purge it all out, and then you binge, and
Yep.
it's this nasty cycle.
Oh,
So it
absolutely.
is
It's a
a part of
spin
breaking it.
cycle. It's
Yeah,
a
spin
spin cycle.
cycle.
And just to add to that three-dimensional, having somebody who's a buddy along with you, having somebody who's ahead of you, which is what we're talking about here today. But then the one thing that you're also doing through with your podcast, you don't have to do a podcast to do this one, is to find somebody who's struggling, who's not nearly where you
Ah,
are.
great. Yeah, great point.
And that is like full circle where now you're helping somebody that can't get a day or two free, or that's in marriage or something that you go, you know what? I may not be where I want to be, but I do have something I can give you, right? As
Yeah,
part of that. So yeah, those
I love
those
that.
three are huge. So well, here's a good example. A golfing example.
Okay.
Apparently that one of the things they'll do with a golf pro will do is if they feel like a person's swing is off, they will do something, make them do a golf swing in a completely different way
Okay.
to totally change their swing to try those patterns. As part of that, a coach will do something, I don't know, do a golf swing with just using one hand on the club, or do something so to because they will recognize there's something in your swing which is not giving you the results that you're looking for. Now, any golf pro here that's what listens to your thing might be pulling their hair out right now, go, you don't know what you're talking about, which I don't, but I've read it. Okay. So, and in the same way, we all have a golf swing when it comes to our recovery
Mm,
patterns.
mm,
And the question is, if your golf swing is not working, having somebody who's looking at your golf swing and say, okay, I've noticed every time you get stressed out, or every time you have a fight with your wife, or every time you hit Friday afternoon and are bored at work,
right.
this is what you do. That's your golf swing. Do you see you have a golf swing? And it's, you're only hitting the ball 10 into the sand trap every time. Or this is how you can change your golf swing. That's where a coach comes in.
Yeah, I love that. I might need some of that golf advice because I am not. I if any of my buddies are listening to this, which I think some of them do, we have this yearly tournament in our hometown
Okay. Yeah.
called the Masters tournament.
Yeah. Okay.
And I typically get last because I just don't golf that often.
Yeah.
And yeah, like kind of to go into the golf metaphor, like, yeah, if you're not like practicing, you're not practicing your swing, you're
Yeah.
not getting that consistency in, and you just think you're going to go out and do well. So far, I've learned every year that that hasn't worked for me.
I'm
So,
a I'm a I'm a I'm a weird golfer in this. I don't know. Somebody explain this. If I go out, if I haven't golfed all year, it's been a year or two. When I go out and golf the very first time,
yeah,
I actually do pretty good.
okay.
But there's something about the second time I go out that it all goes to you know what. It's just I can't hit the ball more than 10 feet. I don't know what it is. It's like I the first time there's some muscle memory that works,
Yeah.
but I start. Okay, the analogy is breaking down here, but but then I can't
No,
golf. Save my
well,
life.
it's almost kind of like the analogy is like sometimes like when you're doing something naturally
Yeah.
and maybe you're not overthinking it, it's kind of like maybe capturing that energy.
Yeah.
Like let's just say in recovery too, and we've talked about this, and I think I've talked about this in the podcast, but like I like love the active commitments part. I think that's been like a huge deal for
Yes.
me, like just
Yep.
really leaning into it, where we talk about like how are you doing with your relationships, how
Yep.
are you doing with your passions, how are you
Yep.
doing spiritually, and then how are
Hmm.
you doing physically, and how that ties into recovery.
Yeah.
But it's like leaning into like what naturally is working for you, like what are your natural passions, like what
Hmm.
natural relationships do you have, physical things that you naturally like to do, like do you naturally like to go to the gym or do you like to go on a run, do you like to go on a walk, like and then with spiritual, right, like
Yeah.
naturally like what brings God into your life.
Sure.
And it's kind of like capturing that like almost like a golf swing to where you're not overthinking it, you're not trying to over engineer it,
Yep.
you're literally just kind of getting to that spot where you're in that flow state. Because like I've had moments in golf too, like where I've just hit crazy putts, like
Mm.
30 feet putts, like just nuts things that happen naturally or a really good drive, to where in my head I'm like, man, if I could just capture that and do it. And I guess that's golf, right? Is like that's the hard
Yeah.
part, because it's such a precise game.
Yeah.
but no, I love that analogy. So hopefully this year I do a little bit better in my golf tournament thinking about
Do they
this.
present the best guy with, do you get get the green jacket at the end?
Yeah, so get this. So the best person gets a jacket. So it's
Okay.
actually like looks just like the Masters jacket, and
Okay.
all the winners do a celebratory. It's the night before because it's a 2 day thing. It's Saturday and Sunday, so it's 36
Okay.
holes total.
Oh
But
wow.
they all do a champions dinner at Applebee's.
Applebee's.
Yeah, and
Oh, that's interesting.
so get this though, the last place person carries a trophy as well. So I have it. It's we found this like shredded shoe on the course, and I don't you never know, like there's always like times like
Yeah.
where you're walking, you just see like one shoe and you're like,
Right.
did this person just disappear? Like
Right.
they just forgot their shoe and they're like, I'm just gonna keep walking. But there was this shredded shoe on the course that just I think the lawnmower or whatever just went right over it.
Gone through it. Yeah.
And it hasn't gotten there yet, but people are kind of like, well, maybe you could like drink beer out of it.
Right.
We haven't
Okay.
got there yet. Like I
Yeah.
would have to totally just put this thing through like,
Yeah.
a dishwasher and desanitize it. But I do have the shoe,
Okay.
and yeah, this is maybe a commitment I'm making
Yeah.
on this podcast right now. That shoe, I'm gonna give it to somebody else.
Good.
That's gonna be the thing. I'm gonna work hard. I'm gonna get better. Now, am I
You're
gonna be
you're
like the
gonna grow.
best?
I guess.
Am I gonna be like Matt Dobbs shoots a Vern Tompke right off the bat?
Yeah.
No, but can I get there someday?
Yeah.
I think so.
And what I like about what you're doing here, Mac, is I realized as well, and me and Matt Dobshoots have had this conversation. If you start out with the ready, aim, fire mentality, you'll never do anything.
Yeah, right.
The best is the enemy of the good. And I love, I mean, it's good business advice. The ready, fire, aim. Now, I'm
Ready,
all for
fire, aim.
improving what I do, because I do some business coaching too, the Kaizen method of continual improvement. What are you doing that you can improve on? Okay, I'm all for that, but the idea of I got to do it perfectly. You know what? You'll never start. And you just get in the habit of that. So, yeah, that's good. I'll have to maybe see if we can fit that in where every week in our group somebody gets the shoe or something. Now that probably would, for guys that already struggle with shame, that probably wouldn't work.
Yeah.
But I like that idea for your buddies. I can see Max going to go out and he's going to secretly hire a golf coach. And it's like it's like a movie montage, right? You see these montage where you're out there with your golf coach and you're working and working and working so that you don't get last place, and then something screws it up totally. And
Well, I
yeah,
think that's what happened last year. So I think like the first year, I think I lost like it wasn't like super. It wasn't like I was like that much worse.
yeah,
Like it was pretty close. I think that was like maybe 1 or 2 years in a row or whatever.
sure.
And then last year, like I was practicing more. I was playing with some
Okay.
people,
Yeah,
and I was with a guy that typically is kind of like maybe middle of the pack.
right.
And sometimes I would like be a little bit better, like a few strokes better than him, or like right. Yeah. And then this tournament happens, and like everyone just did so well. And then the one
Uh,
guy that actually was in last,
yeah,
they got his handicap wrong. So
okay.
like and
Oh
adjusted it
my.
right at the end, which again, it's fine.
Yeah,
This was kind of the drama. Like I saw on the scorecard, I was like, oh, like the last 18 hole, like you got to hit it over a lake, and it can be a really tricky hole because there's like another
yeah,
like little pond that
yeah,
could get you. So I like ended up just getting a bunch of strokes, but I was like, hey, I'm ahead enough to where I think I'll be okay. And then the handicap got adjusted to like my handicap because
yeah.
they're like, oh, it was unfair, and then I lost. And I was like, oh my
Not
gosh, what the heck? What the heck is this?
not saying you're bitter, but you're still bringing it up a year later.
Yeah,
Oh, that's right.
I'm bringing it up and it's recorded. So just
That's
so in
right.
case the commissioner's listening to this, I
Yeah.
still have an issue. But this time, the goal, right, is not to leave it in the hands
Yes.
of the commissioner. It's just to take your recovery in your own hands, right?
And like they're saying, if you're depending on the refs to win the game, you are not, you make your own luck, Mac, right?
That's a good point.